Women's rights group Green Women's Declaration has claimed discrimination after being banned from the Green Party conference. The group, which campaigns for sex-based rights, said the cancellation undermines women's ability to advocate for single-sex spaces and services. Party leader Zach Polanski defended the move, saying the Greens are a broad church but will not tolerate misogyny or transphobia, while GWD said it is seeking legal advice. I'm joined now by the former Green Party deputy leader, Shahrar Ali. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
So you have just come from Bournemouth yourself. You were speaking there, not, I believe, at the main conference. What is your situation with the Green Party at the moment?
Well, I took the Green Party to court in 2022. There was a trial in 2023, and I won that. That was the first ever discrimination claim for protected belief in a political party. So the Green Party is nothing if not notorious for discrimination. That was a gender-critical belief claim. Unfortunately, after winning that case, I was then unceremoniously suspended and excluded from the party for a period of 2 years, followed by the requirement to retract some statements, which I can come to in a second, and I would be unable to stand for election for another 5 years after that. So my crime was two things. First of all, I criticised Stonewall for promoting the teaching of transgender ideology to kids as young as 2. I stand by that criticism. I think that is a hill worth dying on, especially following the Cass review. Secondly, I misgendered Iman Khalif. Now, we know that Khalif does not themselves identify as transgender. So what would that gender misgendering consist of? Well, I correctly sexed him. And as we know, even since the point at which I was critical of the International Olympic Committee and everybody who had any ounce of sympathy for women being battered round the head in a boxing ring would have felt that morally abhorrent. Even since then, we've had more information about the sex tests that Khalif has failed. He's refused to engage in sport where that's been a requirement, which the IOC should have had, and it's been pretty much proved that he's male. So I didn't misgender him, I correctly sexed him.
So you said some facts, arguably, and some opinions, and surely there should be space within a political party for these kind of opinions, to have these kind of conversations. So what's happening now? Are you now taking them back to court, or...?
I am. Now, irrespective of what discrimination case it was, no organisation in their right, sane mind would do the same thing again to somebody who's just beaten them in court on a direct discrimination case. That's what they've done. It almost feels like a punishment for winning. That's called victimisation. It's a slam dunk, as far as I'm concerned, victimisation case, on top of trying to discriminate against me on the very same similar ground, similar territory as the first time round. They are heading for potential bankruptcy.
Well, I mean, this is what I don't understand about today, because this declaration, Women's Declaration, they're not allowed to attend. And it seems like he's being quite careful of saying it's not about their views, because, of course, that would be the grounds by which they could be sued again. But he said, instead it's because they're transphobes and misogyny. Well, of course, that's slander.
Absolutely. So he's on a losing wicket there, and I think he realises it, because he was unable to give detail. And if that goes to court, which I hope it will, the forensics of that in litigation, they will not be able to justify their exclusion of brilliant Green Party members, many of whom have been excluded and suspended by the party. And think of it like this. It's not just an organisation, let alone a political association, saying, we don't want you to have a stall in our space at conference. That could just be a commercial decision. There could be lots of reasons for that. This is not that. This is a situation where they were already offered a stall. And money, a contract went out, they made plans, and it was when the fanatics in the party, the zealots, the ideological zealots, found out about this, that they campaigned against their inclusion. That now becomes a discrimination case. Why have they been excluded? On what basis have they been excluded behind the scenes? Why were people looking for a justification to remove them?
Because other political parties now are embracing their LGB people and women who are speaking up for women's rights. It feels like the Green Party is going down a route that many others have sort of managed to find themselves out of.
Absolutely. So the interesting point about the case that I took, which is against a political party, that did differ from employment tribunals like
Maya
Phoenix, yes, and Maya Forster, it showed that it is still possible and individual members are protected from unlawful discrimination in political parties, albeit there is a higher threshold on free speech. It should be possible to criticise strongly and to offend and to operate a higher threshold in political parties. But what Zach said, what he's been saying about even churches have walls, that's actually very revealing. It betrays that that party has now become like a cult. A cult also has walls. But what they are not allowed to do under the Equality Act and equalities legislation as a political party is discriminate against somebody on the basis of a protected belief, just as though they couldn't discriminate on somebody on the basis of their race or their sex. And that's what they're doing.
You're a former deputy leader of the party, and I speak from my own sort of pain of feeling rejected by my former political parties because of this ideology. I mean, it must be very sad to see what the Green Party has become.
They are becoming totalitarian because ultimately they suppress speech. Now, I went into politics not just to speak to people who agree with me. That is bubble politics. It achieves nothing. I went into politics to serve and represent everybody in society, including those who disagree with me. I regularly go and speak to climate sceptics and denialists, and I take that as an opportunity both to test my own opinions and to persuade them.
But isn't there hypocrisy because of the new deputy leader isn't coming out to speak on... He refused to sign some pledge for trans rights or something.
Well, there's a couple of interesting angles there. First of all, we have sunk into a lowest common denominator tribal politics. The Green Party is very overtly, with its obsessiveness over Palestine, applying for Muslim bloc votes. When I was campaigning on the doorstep, I very rarely found a woman Muslim who was prepared to speak to me about politics. Why? Because her husband was out. That's misogynistic. I don't want votes for any reason. I want votes for the right reason. Mothin Ali also has a lot of explaining to do. As we know, he's become controversial in terms of his advocacy for Palestine, and there is a clear evidence of him making statements which directly resulted, and the Rabbi Deutsch has attributed to Mothin Ali, has resulted in him having to seek police protection for him and his family. Now, whether or not you call the original statements anti-Semitic, I think they were grossly irresponsible. They have resulted in anti-Semitic incidents. And Mothin Ali, and I appeal to him directly, if he cares even about his own political trajectory and career in the party, he must unequivocally apologise for those comments because it's damaging the integrity of the party and it is damaging race relations in this country.
OK, well, thank you very much for joining us. And good luck with your case. The former Green Party deputy leader, Shahrar Ali. Woo!